Hey y'all, welcome back to Bloom and Beyond. I'm Becca. This is Ramsey. If you're new here, we are both BCBAs, which is board certified behavior analysts. We have worked in the field of ABA for over 20 years combined. We've worked across states, across service locations. We've worked with all types of different providers. And we are really passionate about working with families who have children who have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. We recently left our more corporate ABA jobs and created Bloom. It is a community for families to get the support they need on their autism journeys. It is something we're really passionate about. We are both also moms. Between the two of us, we have 3 kids under the age of 3, and we are busy.
Chaos over here.
It's chaos, but we love it. It's our passion, and that is what Bloom is all about. So welcome. We're so glad you're here. This week, we are focused on connection, which I hope you can tell is why we're sitting here at night, sore throats, cup of tea in our pajamas with a fire going.
Kids are in bed.
This is real life, and we're all still getting back in the routine of the new year. And this was the time we had to do this week.
Yeah,
so this is what we're making it happen while the kids are sleeping. Welcome. The communication part that we're focusing on this week is going to be all about how to communicate with your provider. Now, what am I talking about when I say that? I mean, if you currently have a provider, whether that be a speech therapist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, VA, like whatever services you might be in, if you are currently working with somebody, we want the goal today to be teaching you how to maximize the outcomes that are going to come from that relationship, like via your child's progress, by making sure that you feel really confident how you are communicating with that provider. This is to help both you and them. Now, where this came from, we're going to do like one little, sad moment, I guess, of the podcast, and then hopefully get into all the good productive stuff. But there have been many times, unfortunately, that Ramsey and I have worked with providers across all disciplines. This is by no means like specific to any discipline, whether it's other ABA providers, speech therapists, occupational therapists, whoever, that have openly admitted to us that they are not being super forthcoming with their clients' parents. Maybe things aren't going so well in their sessions, and they're kind of afraid to tell the parent that. And I think that is, after having so many conversations where people are openly admitting this to us, when you then become a parent yourself, and I have someone admitting something like that to me, that just didn't sit right. I'm like, people need to be more educated on this, because I work with so many families that have no idea that maybe that session is not going well at all. And they think, oh, my child's in therapy, they're making progress. And really, not only are they not making progress, like there's setback after setback, and it really could be solved pretty quickly. Now, I do want to throw out, like, this is not at all a podcast is like shaming providers.
I mean, we are providers.
Right. Like we ourselves are that. This is just simply meant to have a little bit of a reality check. In any field, in any relationship you have, people are not always the most forthcoming and the most honest. However, when we are talking about your child, specifically your child that has some sort of a diagnosis and is needing some extra support, that is not a risk we're willing to take. That is not a risk I want anybody in our Bloom community taking. This is about our kids and how we can make sure that we are helping them at the most we possibly can. So
I think if you are a provider too, like this podcast is mainly for parents, but if you are a provider listening, this is a good check on yourself. And are you doing everything that you could be doing to get these parents the information that they need and to communicate them vice versa, not just the parent chasing you? Because I personally have had the provider side of them sharing that, like, I haven't given away that Johnny's having tantrums the whole session, but also a lot of the parent side where the parents, they're used to the relationship with me where I probably give them way too much information. And I'm like, no, you have to learn this. And they're like, I don't even know if my kid has goals in their other therapies. I haven't talked to that provider in 3 months. And it's like, that's not great. But okay, so like, what could we do moving forward? How can you fix this? Because that's not necessarily like you have a bad provider. It might just be, okay, let's tweak things and teach them kind of how to treat you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it really does go both ways. It's not just teaching the provider how to treat you, it's educating yourself to know what your role should be in
Yeah.
that relationship. And a relationship is a two-way street, as we all know in all different types of relationships. Relationship with your providers is no different. It requires work from both sides.
Mhm.
And you're going to kind of see that theme throughout this today. And our best way of supporting parents is educating them. And that a lot of times requires a bit of a humbling moment where you're
Mm.
like, crap, maybe I'm not asking the right questions. Maybe I'm not getting as involved as I should as the parent. And
Right.
that's okay. That we don't want any guilt there. Everyone has to figure these things out on their own terms. But we're really hopeful that by the end of today, you feel really excited and confident to show up to your child's therapy sessions this week, next week, whatever that might be, prepared and ready to
Right.
participate and ask the right kinds of questions.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I posted this today on Instagram because this is our topic of the week. And one of the things that I was comparing it to is if you are not involved in your child's therapy, you're expecting less than 1% of this child's time in therapy to change everything. And that is so not realistic. So if you're trying to run a marathon, you practicing once a week by walking your dog like down the street and back isn't going to do anything.
That's not going to get you there.
Yeah, it's not going to do it. The whole purpose of you bringing them to therapy is to learn these new skills and to meet milestones and bring them back up to where they should be developmentally. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for the kid. It's a lot of work for the provider. And if you're looking on average less than 1% of their entire week they're spending in therapy. If you spent less than 1% of your week practicing for this marathon, you're not going to get there. Or it's just going to take you a really, really, really long time to get there. So one of the reasons why we're pushing this so hard is because make that 1% 60%. Make it 70%. Imagine how much quicker your child's going to beat those milestones compared to if they didn't. It reminds me of one of my most amazing clients ever that was on the podcast like a couple of episodes ago, Shayna. She was one of the most involved parents, and the progress that we saw with her son, Roman, it was exponential because she spent so much time being taught. She wanted to learn everything, and she did, and he absolutely excelled. And not that we can promise any outcomes for any kids, but that's the purpose. That is why this is so important.
You're
We're so
absolutely
passionate.
increasing the chance that you will see better outcomes.
Yeah.
The more involved and educated you are.
Yeah. Just had to get that out there.
Yeah, no, totally. When we talk about like the providers that are maybe not being the most forthcoming with things, if you felt uneasy about that, or maybe now you're panicking and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what do I not know about my child's, ABA sessions or OT sessions? Or maybe you're sitting there thinking like, not our speech therapist is our
Amazing.
favorite person in the entire world. Well, this is for all of you. This is not for good providers or bad providers.
Yeah.
This is for just across the board enhancing relationships. So, how do you mitigate the risk that you don't know everything that's going on? Well, we have the answers for you. So, we are going to go through 4 specific questions today that we want you to ask your providers consistently, that will help both you and them. So, ultimately, what does that mean? That just means we're helping your child. We want to help them reach all of their goals. We want them to be the best versions of themselves. And this is how you do it. So, question number 1. If you're not sure about this, or maybe you've forgotten, when your child started with any of these services, that practitioner conducted an assessment. That was step 1, whether they are an ABA, speech, OT, PT, an assessment had to be done for that provider to then determine where they need to work with your child, to see the gaps, to see certain skills that are missing, barriers that might be present. So they could help develop a plan of care and work with your child in their sessions to reach these, predetermined goals. Now, you should have seen this and at minimum seen the goals and signed and consent
To the goals.
the goals.
Yeah.
If not, you should write that down and look into that. But as the parent, you should have been given the opportunity to consent to this plan of care, this treatment plan, whatever they might call it in their like individual fields, and say, give them a green light. Like, go ahead, you have my permission to work with my child on reaching these goals. So that's step 1. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, please go ask your provider. Send them a quick email.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Email your provider immediately.
Stop here, email them, and ask for that. Say, I'm trying to review his goals. Would you mind sending that over to me? That's step 1. Step 2, look at the goals, read the goals, and help yourself understand what they mean. If you don't not sure about like certain jargon, put it in Google, put it in ChatGPT. They can break that down for you really quickly. This is not, it does not have to be that complicated,
Mm.
but you need to have that plan of care, that treatment plan, whatever it is. You should know as the parent what goals are being worked on in your child's sessions. I'm going to say that one more time.
Mm.
You should know what goals are being worked on in your child's sessions, regardless of what, field we're talking about.
To retreat.
That is essential, both for you, the provider, and your child.
Yeah.
That is how you maximize outcomes. So now you know that you need to look at the goals. You have reviewed the goals. You understand what they are. Maybe it's 5 goals. Maybe it's 25 goals. Depending on the service we're talking about, that number can really vary. My son is currently in physical therapy. And for his 6-month authorization, he has 6 goals. And so every week, I ask his physical therapist where we're at, how we're tracking. So that is kind of the final part of this. I gave you a little preview there, but after you know what the goals are, you can come armed with a really clear, objective question. A question that, again, not to be like overly blunt here, but like that they can't lie to you about. If you just ask, how is Johnny doing? I guarantee you the answer is probably going to be something like, oh my gosh, he's great. He's doing really well. He's talking a lot more.
He's so much this activity.
He's loving the blocks these days.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you. And so then you leave thinking, oh my gosh, this is great. My child's thriving. Speech therapy is working like a dream. And that might be true. But they might also be encountering some speed bumps that, we want to be able to try to mitigate as best as possible. So you come armed with these goals and you ask one question, pick 1 to 3, depending on how many goals we're talking about. If your child is in ABA and they're receiving 20 hours, 30 hours a week of ABA services, maybe you could come and ask about 3 different goals. Like,
Right.
all right, in my meeting this week, I'm going to ask my BCBA, you wrote a goal about my child requesting 5 different nouns. How many is he currently doing? You come armed with those goals and ask very specific questions. If they're in speech or OT or PT, depending on what that kind of plan of care looks like, they might have fewer goals. They only see them typically. We actually posted the average on Instagram today. It's about 45 minutes a week is the average across speech, OT, and PT. That's not a lot of time. So they're not working on, 35 different goals in the 45 minutes that they have. So pick one and ask this week. I'm going to focus on this one goal, and that's what I'm going to ask about. Were you about to say something?
Yes, I was going to say one thing about when you are checking what goals that they have and what they mean. Don't be afraid if you don't understand what is on that treatment plan to ask your provider. I know she said, like, Google it, try to figure it out. Some of them are intentionally very complicated and complex language because they have to send that to insurance. That is how, if you are going through insurance, that your services are being paid for. So I know, especially in like ABA, we would write every hour had one goal. So the kiddo I recommended 30 hours. That's 30 goals. And they were
lengthy,
technical. I mean, they wanted so much information. And if a parent if I just gave them that to go over the goal, they would have no idea what that even meant. Don't let that freak you out. While I got seasoned as a BCBA, I wrote them like almost a cheat sheet of goals. Like, here's the insurance one that I need you to sign on that you have a copy of, but like, here's what that means.
Totally. Yeah.
Because you need to know that. And when we write these goals, they're building blocks. One goal might be a prerequisite goal to another goal. So like she said in ABA, you could be working on multiple goals at one time. And it's good for you to know, like, hey, where are we? Because when I write a 6-month treatment plan for somebody, my best practice in our field is these are realistic goals that I really want Johnny to meet in the next 6 months. So as a parent, you can expect, like, okay, in 6 months, these are something that I want to help him progress so that he does meet these goals in that time. So you asking, how is he doing? Like, all right, we're 3 months in. Have we completed half of these? Like, that is all very helpful information for you to know.
Absolutely. And like you said, an ABA, depending on your provider, those goals can be really lengthy and technical. I've seen speech goals, OT goals, my son's own physical therapy goals, and They vary largely as well. Some are
Mhm.
much more lengthy and complicated. Others are like 4 words straight to the point, which is
Yeah.
great from a parent perspective, but there still will be terminology that you are not familiar with. Now, I would also encourage you to ask your provider, like Ramsey said, but then work on remembering those terms. Like,
Mhm.
make it your goal to learn that jargon. If this is the world your child is currently in, you want to be in there 100% with them. And in order to do that, you need to understand what the heck is going on.
Right.
So, make it a point to learn those things. So, to kind of wrap up our question one, find out the goals, find out the objective information and the things that your child is actively working towards in these sessions. Then you are going to ask the provider 1 to 3 of those, depending on how lengthy these sessions are, very clear questions. You wrote a goal for him to request 5 words. Where is he currently at?
Mm.
Or you wrote a goal for him to try 3 new foods. How many has he successfully done in your sessions?
Right.
Whatever that might be, that is a great way to get data, to get objective information. I'll add one little plug in and we're going to go on to our next question. You can also ask them, and this might not be applicable to every service or every provider, but you can also ask them, is there a way that you can see progress monitoring? Can you track these
Mm.
data on a weekly basis? I know in ABA, most places should allow you the ability to do that. There is some sort of online data collection system that they're using, and you as the parent should have a login to be able to see kind of in real time their graphs, the
Mm.
frequency, the rates, whatever it is you might be looking for data wise. You should be able to see it all. And again,
I
it
love
might be
that.
technical and
Yeah.
a little overwhelming at first, but especially if you're a data person, you have access to all of it. That is your right as the parent. And that just arms you with information to better help your child.
Yes. Can I add to that?
Yeah.
10 out of 10 recommends the data side, looking at it, being taught how to analyze it. Obviously, we're data nerds because that's just our
Yeah.
jam. But the importance of it, let's say that you have a goal for saying your child needs to ask 10, for 10 different things per hour, and you're not aware of the goal, and he's not doing that at home because you don't know that he needs to, because you don't know what the goal is. Your BCBA or your speech provider says like, okay, he mastered that goal, we're not going to work on that anymore. That's not good because you're not seeing it at home. So if you're not connecting, you're almost could be causing a regression because they haven't generalized that skill. So, yeah, that's great that he can do 10 different items per hour in the clinic, but what about in his at his preschool? What about at home in the afternoon? Are you still seeing a lot of tantrums because he doesn't know to ask you for 10 different things? That's not good. So, again, another reason why communicate on
Yeah.
this.
And the more objective you can be in those conversations, the more clarity it brings. And what I mean more specifically by that is nobody knows your child like you. You are the parent, you are the expert on your child, but you're probably not a speech therapist.
Mm.
You're probably not a BCBA or an occupational therapist or a physical therapist. If you are, wow, that's awesome. But if you're not, like majority of us, then you don't know everything that your child needs. And that is hard to trust somebody fully with saying, I am the expert on my child, but in this particular domain, I'm not. And I'm having to relinquish some of my control as the mom and trust that you are doing everything you can to help him meet these goals. That is a skill in and of
Yeah,
itself that's
it's
very
hard.
difficult. Yeah, it's extremely difficult. But by asking objective questions, you're educating yourself and you're building a really productive relationship with that
Mhm.
provider that only strengthens the trust that you have with them.
Yeah,
That's what you want. At the end of the day, if you don't trust your child's providers, what are you doing?
yeah.
That is scary. That is not a place you want to find yourself, and you do have control over those things. So that's question number one. Bring objective, goal driven questions to your provider and educate yourself and give them the opportunity to help you with it.
Yep. Question number 2, something that is probably one of the biggest things that I could recommend for a parent to do, and ask this question every single session. What can I be practicing at home? What can you show me how to do? Oh, you just taught him how to use a fork to pick up his pasta. He's never done that for me. Show me how you did that. How did you set it up? What kind of fork did you use? Did you put it in a bowl or a plate? All of these things can matter when it talks about a skill that a kiddo is learning. Sometimes it takes very specific, controlled settings. And if you're wanting to duplicate that at home, a lot of these little tiny things matter. And I've heard so many parents say, he won't do that for me. Like, no, she did this at the clinic. She refuses to do that at home. That is my number one signal to like get that parent into parent training. However, from what I understand, ABA is probably the only one that, unless you know differently, that insurance will pay for caregiver coaching.
Yeah, there's a
Heard
lot of
anything?
it depends on states and
Okay.
plans. There's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate that. I think more than anything, it's a lot of provider, um, just rules, which probably also come down to insurance. But like some providers have a little sitting room, and that's just
Mm,
where you sit while the kids are in therapy. Others, it's one big giant open room, and the parents sit there and watch the whole time.
right.
Others, you're not even allowed to stay in the buildings.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's HIPAA involved, and so if you're sitting here starting to like get nervous, oh my gosh, they don't let me see the sessions. Don't immediately panic. That's not necessarily like a red flag, but it's not, it's worth asking, like, what
Yeah.
can I see? So, anyways, yeah, insurance sometimes with the other
Okay.
providers, but it's a little trickier.
Yeah. I yeah, I wasn't sure about that, but I only know really how ABA works. We ask for certain insurance hours for caregiver coaching, but not everybody has that ability to do that. So ask them, what can I be practicing at home? Please show me. If you can't show me, if I can't be in that session, if I can't watch you, send me a video. Take a video of it. Some kiddos, in my experience, parents can't join session merely for the fact that they do awful if parents are in session. And when they're not in session, they do amazing. So in that case, put them on a telehealth call. It's like a virtual call where the computer's up, the kid doesn't even know that they're being recorded, and you're watching exactly how this is being implemented.
I actually, this morning, my son had physical therapy. We've been doing it about 2 months now, and we've been doing it weekly at our house because I am who I am. And I'm like, oh no, I will be involved. Like, I
Yeah.
want to see what's going on. He just turned 1 last week. Like, he's a baby. It's like, no, I want to be there. I want to know exactly what you're doing. Please teach me so that I can be practicing with him all throughout the week. And he is right now in a like, stage 4 clean your phase, mama over everything, to the point where like all he wants is me to just hold him and baby him. He will do things for, my husband, his dad. He will do things for his 3-year-old sister that he will not do for me right now. So physical therapy was an absolute nightmare this morning. He was screaming, crying the entire time, like
No.
coming over, laying his head on my leg, acting as if I had just told him to get up and run a marathon. He was like, Mom, this is the worst ever.
It can't cool,
And I'm like, we're
mom.
literally just asking you to play with your favorite toy. Like, this is not that bad. But I've now had 2 months of working with this provider who has been just such a dream. She has been extremely forthcoming with every question I've asked her. All the questions that we're talking about today, you better believe I'm asking her every single one every
Mhm.
week because I know these things and I want to be involved. And that trust is there. I trust her with my child. I trust his care that he is receiving with her. And so today, when we were both sitting there laughing, being like, oh my gosh, we're not getting anything done. Like, he's just all over me. We said, hey, next week, I'm not going to be present. She's going to go to his daycare and she's going to do his session there. She's authorized to do so. So it was super easy. And I was like, great,
Great
let's
place to
see how it
transition.
goes. Yeah. And so
Mhm.
before she left, though, she made a point to tell me, I'm going to take videos while I'm there since you won't be there.
Mm.
And then let's have a phone call right after so I can
Mm.
send you everything. You can
Wow.
watch it so that I am also then up to date on any new changes. I know when she said that, I was like, do you want to
Love
be my
you.
best friend?
Right. Better come on the podcast.
Right. Like, I love you. And so that's why this works, like you can have such productive relationships with those providers.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get the best of both worlds. Like, he's going to get to try something without me there to see if it's the right fit for him. And I then get the education right after and the debrief from her after having established that trust.
Too, with you, before you started PT, there were things that you were worried about.
Yeah.
Like, he's not
Yeah.
flipping over. He's
Right.
not crawling yet.
Yeah.
And then you join the session, building this relationship and asking those questions probably eased your anxiety
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
whole process of like,
So much.
okay, there's a plan.
Yeah.
I understand. I have a plan.
Uh,
We're making progress every single day just by practicing it.
Totally. You nailed it. Yeah. There were 2 steps in that process I received like such peace over. The first being the fact I fought pretty hard for like months. I wanted him in therapy, even though they were like, he's really not like maybe he's like a week behind a milestone. But like, it's really not that delayed. And I was like, I'm telling you, I know his personality, get him in therapy. I'd rather do it now than wait.
Mm.
And so when they finally agreed, that was like, heck yeah, I can't wait for this child to start therapy. Number two being when he was assessed for his physical therapy and they were reviewing it with me. And it was so like sweet because they were trying to, he's not doing this, but that's okay. And I was like, no, that's great. Like,
I want
I
you to see that.
I'm so glad you saw that too, because
Mhm.
I agree. He's not doing that. And I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. I want to know how we can work towards it now.
Totally.
So like that brought me such peace as it was. And then yeah, getting a great provider that we now trust and
Yeah.
has been great. So that I am able to be intimately involved in what we're practicing. And he's getting every single week or every single day, multiple times a day. He's doing his little workouts.
Strong guy.
New year, new Cupid. Let's jump into question number 3. So we just talked about, what can I be practicing at home? Something that is maybe a little bit more generic. They're probably going to recommend goals to you that are goals your child is doing pretty well with. So don't be hurt if the things they want you to do at home are not maybe what you want to do. A great example of this is potty training. This came up all the time in ABA. We would maybe start working on potty training at the clinic or in the community setting. And the parents were like, can we do it at home? I want to do it at home. And I would say, I know you do. And I love that you're motivated. I need like 3 more days in a controlled setting where I can make sure I'm like establishing a connection for your kiddo
Yeah.
with what their expectation is before I send them to home, where I know, and I say this with the most love in my heart as a fellow mom, that it's just not going to be replicated the exact same way. You're going to have siblings coming in and out. You're going to have the fire alarm that randomly goes off.
Yeah.
It's just not it's not a setting that is controllable. And so I want to make sure I can get your child to a decent place before I then send them off to you to kind of generalize that skill and make sure they have some good momentum so we don't make it even harder for them or more confusing for them. So that's a big one we've heard.
Can I say one more thing on that?
Yeah.
So I think as a provider too, there's some skills that we don't want to be teaching parents something that then won't work.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because we're maybe problem solving in the moment.
Yeah. That is like, we do a lot of that. We try the simplest approach. And then if that doesn't work, we modify. And so there's likely going to be a lot of times where it's like, okay, how are we doing? If you are one of those parents that we love and want to have all the information, what my information will be is, this is what we tried. This didn't work.
Yeah.
So we're going to try this tomorrow. And then once we have something established that I'm like, okay, we need to be consistent with this, then it's your time to shine.
Right, exactly. So
Mhm.
don't be surprised if your provider then has you, when you ask them that question too, like, what can I be practicing at home? If they give you the things that your child is already doing pretty well in their sessions, that's a great way to kind of easily transition your child into performing those skills, whatever it is that like that you guys are targeting in new environments. So don't be surprised by that.
Mhm.
Question number 3 is a little bit more about the skills that they are still kind of working on. And so what you're going to do as the parent is try not to come in with your arms wide open saying, I want you to teach me all of these things from over here to over here. You're going to pick one a week or a month, whatever that might be. It's obviously, depending on therapy, once a week for a child that has one occupational therapy session a week might be pretty aggressive. I don't know if they would progress that quickly, but just read the room. You'll get a good feel for it. You know your child. And so for question 3, you're going to ask that provider to show you and or teach you one strategy or goal. So why do we talk about this? Well, when you ask them not just for a report or, hey, what's something I can do at home this week? That's just them kind of regurgitating information, giving it to you and sending you on your way. Something that's probably relatively simple to do, doesn't require that much training. Your child's already doing pretty well with it. This is for something that is more in the works. So when you ask them to show you something, you're accomplishing a few things. One, you're getting your eyes on your child's therapy. That is always a good thing.
Always.
Not only from just like a comfort and a trust perspective, being able to see what's actually happening from an education standpoint. If you're reading these treatment plans, you don't know what they're talking about. You can watch somebody implement it with your child and probably pretty quickly be able to understand what's going on.
Mhm.
So getting eyes on a session is so helpful. Now, one other little plug here, like we mentioned previously, certain restrictions with HIPAA or the setting that your child is in. If there are multiple sessions with other clients happening at the same time, every place has different rules on this and what you are allowed to see while they're trying to protect all of their patients or all of their clients' health information. So again, I don't want you to like run for the hills and think it's a massive red flag if they won't let you see something or watch the session. But there should be a middle ground. So if that is your provider, you get consent for them to video just your child with something you're teaching them and they can show you directly, or they have a private room or you're able to go watch a session in a private room, whatever that might look like. Ask them, like, what are my options here? If they're really resistant, like there's literally no chance, no way, you'll never be able to see anything that's going on.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. I don't love that
Yeah.
and can't think of a world where that is an accurate response.
Right.
That shouldn't be the case. So showing you is a good thing, gets your eyes on it, which is great. It helps with your learning. You're also going to ask your provider to teach you by seeing it, whether that is, hey, can I join the last 5 minutes of your OT session so you can show me how you get him to use his spoon? That way I can make sure I understand exactly what you're doing and I can try to work with him on that at home. Providers will love this. They should love this because it's helping meet their goals.
Yeah.
You're making their life easier by prepping your child and giving extra reps throughout the week so they can meet those goals. So providers should love this question. Again, last little plug, and I swear we're not trying to talk crap about people, but from just we're mama bears, like from the protective side of me, like I want to make sure parents also are eyes wide open. If a provider is like really not into teaching you and showing you things, just run. Just like, no. If they're like, no, don't worry about it, I'll just work on it with him in session. That's an absolutely not. That doesn't make any sense from a developmental standpoint, like pretty much ever. So you can ask more questions about it, but that's not great.
I mean, yeah, unless you are asking like your nurse, like, can you teach me how to do surgery? It's like, no, I can't do that.
That requires like an extensive medical background.
Right. So if it's something that's, you have a very complex kiddo that has that is a totally different situation. But if there's nothing complex about it, I don't even care if you go to a provider that is in somebody's living room with multiple kids. They could go to your car and talk to you about something or show you something. Like, there's really no reason why. And if for some reason there is a reason, they should tell you that reason.
And they should be confidently and clearly delivering that information in a way that makes you feel confident in their answer. Yeah.
Like if you feel like, then you could call us or you could just run.
And honestly, at the end of the day, even if they do, maybe it's some weird states, insurance, counties rule, and they're extremely limited. Their hands are actually tied. They cannot let you see anything that is happening in their sessions. If that is real, which I don't think it is. But if it is, let's give these people the benefit of the doubt. I would consider switching providers. Only because that limits you. That limits you from getting the education that you need to help your child. So why not find a better option? It sucks. Maybe that's a really great person. You really like the way they communicate with you and your child, but that is potentially holding back progress.
Yeah.
So it's worth considering switching anyways.
And I will say something about Bloom. I know I said like, call us. Our background is ABA. That's what we do. So when we're talking about speech and OT and PT and getting our thoughts on things, I don't need like PT and OT and LSLPs hating us and saying like we don't know anything. We collaborate with other people in those fields for that reason. That we have all of them on call to where if something fishy comes up with our clients, like we might not know the answer. And so I'm ringing up my most trusted SLP and saying like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, have you heard of this? Is this normal? Like if we don't know the question right away. So like
100%. Yeah. We don't fit the traditional ABA mold, which is where Bloom came from. Like we also had questions and we had doubts and concerns and we felt like people weren't always getting the care that we think they deserve. And that's where Bloom came from. I mean, like people I've worked with in the past, they know this about me, but I have worked with some people that I cannot talk well enough about them from all disciplines, speech, OT, PT. And I like in my old job, I used to carry around like this big red binder. It said, Bekah's OT binder. And I was like, nobody gets this. This is mine. Because this fabulous OT that I worked with created this basically a breakdown of a lot of things that are overlapping between what we were working on with clients in ABA and what she was working on with her clients in OT, all of which had an autism diagnosis, ways we could like integrate our sciences to help these kids. And I'm obsessed with it. I used to write ABA goals all the time that were like low-key OT goals because I was like, this is the best way to reach this child. And so we are massively pro collaborating with these providers. I mean, I've talked about my son's in PT. There's a good chance he's going to end up in speech as well. I'm obsessed. We love that stuff.
Totally.
Trying to be realistic about some of the things as well. And that includes ABA.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Rams, you want to take us home with question number 4?
Yes, for sure. So one other thing that you should be asking your provider every single week is, what was difficult this week? What was the hardest part about my child's session this week? And the reason why we ask that is because, I mean, we're in this field for a reason. We all have compassionate hearts and we want you to feel good. We want you to know how good that your child was during the session. And that might be what we naturally lean on. For some providers, might bad sense there will be a cop out of like, I don't really want to address the bad because you might ask me 5,000 questions. So like, I'm not going to bring that up. However, if you straight up ask your provider, hey, what was hard about today? They could probably give you something that was difficult. The reason that that's important to do is your provider, on average, we're talking about ABA or speech, OT, PT, again, 1% or less per week that this provider is spending time with your child. Could you imagine dating someone and spending that much time with them per week? How long do you think it would take to like actually get to know that person really, really well and know their ins and outs? I posted this on Instagram earlier. I had a kiddo terrified of Hickory Dickory Dock. That song came on and the poor baby was under a chair just screaming. What if that was happening during your sessions and speech had no idea why, or OT or PT, they couldn't target, oh, that's when this song came on, and then your whole session is ruined, but they're like, yeah, we played with blocks at the beginning, so it was really, really good. We could avoid that whole situation if you would have asked, hey, what was hard this week? Well, you know, we were listening to super simple songs, and all of a sudden he just got really upset and tantrum the whole rest of the time. Well, what song came on? Let me think. I think it was like Hickory Dickory Dock. Oh my God, no, that's a no-go for my kid. That whole thing could have been avoided moving forward just by being blunt and like directly asking that question.
Change hour to hour.
Yeah.
Like, and we talked about this a lot last week on the podcast, like with our own daughters, you know, like what worked tonight might not work tomorrow. What she was into today is not what she's into next week. And no one knows that like parents. You know, Ramsey talked about in the podcast about how, you know, my kid has to have the red cup on the right side of their plate when they're eating pasta, but if they're having yogurt, they only want the blue water bottle. Like providers don't know those kinds of things. So what if your child is going through a green water bottle phase and you forgot to, when you packed the bag the night before, you accidentally put in the red water bottle. So he shows up to his session the following day and he has the red water bottle, not the one he actually wants. And it throws him off. For all kids, something as small as that legitimately can throw off a day. And now if you add in, you know, any sort of other diagnosis to the mix of toddlerhood, that makes it even more complicated. You know your child better than anyone. Asking a provider what was the hardest part of their session potentially allows you the opportunity to nip a problem in the bud and be like, oh, that's just a funny, weird quirk he has. He hates that song. If you could avoid it, that'd be great. And you probably won't have those issues again. Now, sometimes they might come to you and say, the hardest part of our session was he was really struggling with the S sound today. Okay. Your mom knowledge is not going to be able to cure that, probably. And that's fine. I'm not saying that anytime they present you with what was the hardest part, you are expected to have an answer.
Totally.
But if 1 out of every 3 questions you do have an answer, you're making that provider's life easier and you're making your child's life easier.
Yeah.
And you accomplish that by asking 1 simple question. And so that's why it matters.
I can think of an example of one of the clients that I've had where she was standing in front of the TV and we were trying to figure out what she was wanting to watch. And she kept pointing to the TV and she was a Gestalt language processor and she was saying, everybody, let's go. Everybody, let's go. And she's pointing to like, and then she's getting more and more upset. The more that time was going on, we weren't understanding. Everybody, let's go. Everybody, let's go. So I got out my phone. I FaceTime mom and I showed her, I'm like, hey, this is making them upset. Now, we had her the whole entire day. So that's different than like a 30-minute session. But what does this mean?
Yeah.
What does everybody let's go mean? And the mom was like, oh, that's how she asks for Dora the Explorer. Come on, Vamonos,
Yeah.
everybody, let's go. That was, we're like, oh, of course. Like, okay, I'm glad that we didn't make this go too far to where she's complete meltdown without
Yeah.
saying like, all right, this is upsetting. I'm not really getting it. Let's tag in parents really quickly.
Totally.
So many times that's happened.
Totally. And especially if your child is receiving multiple therapies, if there's any sort of sensory, sensitivity is going on that you're working with your OT provider on, that bleeds over into every other aspect of their life.
Mm.
I've worked with a kiddo before who was she was OCD and she was extremely like auditory sensitive. And I worked with her for so many years that I could hear a
Yeah.
cabinet close and I knew it didn't close the right way, the room, and I would whip my head to her and she was already like, oh man, like not in a good place. So you learn those things
Yeah.
and you could say, physical therapist, speech therapist, BCBA, whoever it might be. In OT, we're working on this because has a really, like sensitive and like emotional outburst to the sound of a balloon popping.
Mhm.
Heads up, that might
Mhm.
impact your sessions. Even if it's happening with a kid that's across the room,
Mhm.
it will have an impact. So those are external stimuli that you should probably be aware of
Yeah.
so that you can just help her get calm.
That was actually the first client that Beck and I worked on together
Yeah,
8
like
years ago.
1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd be in the same room and something would happen and I would just look at Becca and Becca's like, the puzzle didn't go in the slot right. Like just redo
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Ugh, that was a special time. I
Yes.
knew that child like the back of my hand. Probably better than
Yeah. I mean, and that's the level like of a parent.
Yeah.
You know them so
Yeah.
well.
Totally.
And then there's other times personally. I mean, I know with Hazel, just today, I was with Hazel. Speaking on, they change so much,
Yeah.
every single day. Yesterday, Hazel and I are very much into like Olivia Dean right now, and that song, like "The Man I Need," she loves it, and she calls it "Talk to Me." And she's like, "Mommy, play Talk to Me. I want to hear Talk to Me." Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. So I was with her all day yesterday. She's playing it. She gets in the car with my husband, Drew, this morning. And she's like, Daddy, talk to me. He's like, okay, what do you want to talk about? She's like, no, talk to me in the car. No, talk to me on the phone. Like she was trying to get it out, but I mean, it happens just like that. Even when you are a
Oh,
parent, that
yeah.
you just
Ellie came up to
communication.
me like 2 weeks ago and goes, "Hey mom, guess what?" I said, "What?" And she goes, "Boo, boo, 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 boo." And then goes, "Ha, I got you." I was like, "What is happening?" And I just like looked at my husband across the room. He's like, "Oh, we created that last night. It's like a whole thing." And I was like, "Cool."
Great.
Like it's just so many things that kids do that are so random and they last for
Uh-huh.
a week or 2 weeks or a month. As silly as they can be, and we're making light of it. Like that bleeds over into
Hmm.
if that is bleeding over into our kids' carpool experience, it's absolutely bleeding over into their sessions with their providers. Asking this question just really helps you get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So, real quick, I'm going to summarize our 4 questions and then I'm going to let Rams kind of close this out. So, question number 1, you have your goals, you have your treatment plan, plan of care, whatever that might be. And you go every week and ask your provider an objective question. You wrote that he is going to echo 5 whole word approximations. How many is he currently doing? Great.
Mhm.
Something like that. Something really clear and objective. Question number 2, what can I be practicing at home? What's a skill that's maybe going really well that I can now like replicate and start practicing with him at home? Question 3, can you show me or teach me one new skill, something that's maybe in the works that they're currently having to problem solve a little bit? You can get eyes on it. So this helps you get eyes on session, which is great, both for just confidence and trust, but also then for education for you.
Mhm.
You're able to see how they're practicing, how they're prompting your child, how they're, physically maneuvering certain items to like optimize their success, whatever that is, you're able to see it. And that makes it so much easier for you to then duplicate and do at home. And then our last question, what has been the hardest part of your sessions this week? If it's something that is just strictly developmental, then okay, at least you're now informed and
Yep.
you can continue to follow up on that. If it is something small, but that is really child specific, you might have the answer on how to solve
Mhm.
that problem. And you've just made everybody's lives easier. All of these questions are designed with the goal of enhancing your relationship and your collaboration with your providers. It is
Yeah.
not meant to question their practice. It is not
Right.
meant to like question what they're working on or how they're teaching your child. They are the experts in those fields. It is just to create a really healthy relationship where communication is going both ways
Mhm.
and you guys trust and work together in a way that is working towards reaching your child's goals and helping
Yeah,
them in the best way that you guys can
totally.
in a way that feels good.
Yeah. Okay. So that closes out episode 4 of Bloom and Beyond. If you have not already subscribed to the Bloom Brief, please do so. Go to our website or drop a comment below and say email, and we will send you the link. The Bloom Brief is we're just going to expand on each of these topics every single week and show you things that you might have missed. If you are wanting all the information possible, the really, really good stuff we save for the Bloom Brief.
It's
So,
exclusive content for just subscribers.
yep. And it comes out every Thursday. So please subscribe to that if you haven't already. And be ready. We are hitting behavior management and
All things
strategies,
behavior.
all things behavior in the month of February. So I hope you're excited and thanks for listening.
Thanks.